Has expired. Let me turn and recognize the gentleman from Oregon, Mr. Blumenauer, for as much time as he may consume.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, luckily for you, my committee responsibilities take me elsewhere, so I won't be lengthy in my inquiry, but I appreciate the context that's been established by the ambassador. One would think that the tragedy that's occurred in Pakistan would be yet another wake-up call, but it seems that at times people here are not sensitive to what's happening halfway around the world, but maybe some things that are closer to home. So I would like to just follow up very briefly with a couple of the comments from our other witnesses. There was reference to extreme weather events, heat waves, for instance, that I'm not certain people understand the impact that has. We think of the thousands of deaths in Europe, for instance, problems in the Midwest in the last decade. I'm curious if our witnesses could elaborate a little bit by putting some sense of what the impact may be for these ever escalating high temperatures, and perhaps laying to rest the canard that well, climate change might be good for agriculture, because I'm hearing that we're talking about extreme rain at the same time we're having change in the moisture composition of the soil, which sounds like it's bad for agriculture. So I wonder if our witnesses could give a little, briefly give some dimension to the seriousness of these that people might be facing here in the United States that might get their attention if the events in Pakistan didn't.
Yeah, but go ahead.
In my written testimony, I have some numbers for this. In the first figure, I show how frequent an event, a heat wave, that we consider to be likely to happen once every 20 years. If in a business as usual greenhouse gas emissions scenario, that what we consider once in 20 years now would be every other year. And so hence that's the root of the rare event becoming commonplace. And so there certainly would see adaptation of that. If you have 2 severe years in a row, the second time isn't as bad. You know, the people that were going to die the first time already did. And it's as harsh as that reality, I think. But the rare events predicted at the end of the century under this scenario would be as much as 11 degrees Fahrenheit warmer than they would otherwise be. And so that's a lot. And I'm not a human health expert, but I think it's fairly obvious that could be very dangerous.
Well, I guess my concern is maybe you kill off some of the weak and the vulnerable among us with the first event when they come every other year, every third year. But what I also heard in your testimony is that the extremes are going to get worse, the temperatures get higher. When we're talking about increases in the highest of 5 or 10 degrees Fahrenheit, it strikes me that that has dimensions that we are going to have a great deal of difficulty contending with, like even our capacity to be able to provide cooling, for instance, on an overstressed grid, or extreme weather events could interact in terms of posing problems with actually the supply of energy itself. Mr. Chairman, I'm still sort of processing this, but it sounds to me unnerving in terms of how this scales up in a way that we're not quite, I think, able to comprehend at this point.
I would add that one of the things that frightens me the most is that the projections are for such a level for the average, but the extremes are actually higher. And so I expect that the extreme heat waves will change at a greater rate than the average climate.